Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start with a little film.
Hi. I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage, please.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks.
Hi.
I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
Feed your words through my buttonholes. I pin them to my fingerless gloves.
Hi. I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage.
Constante.
Gama. On Will Kedagum Sinead Closer.
Oh.
Brilliant. Go Margaret. I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage. Hello. I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage, please.
Let's get lost.
Can I ask for Sinead's hand in marriage, please?
Yeah?
Thanks.
Come on.
I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage.
Okay. Put that down there. And these things are more trouble than they're worth. But anyway, it saves you just having my voice entirely. So here we go. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Marriage equality began life as an advocacy initiative to support Senator Catherine's opponent, Dr. Anne-Louise Gilligan, with their legal case to have their Canadian marriage recognised here in Ireland. Despite losing the case in the High Court, their action was an enormous success. They put the issue of marriage equality firmly on the agenda in Ireland. Their heartwarming love story won the hearts and minds of the Irish public, and they became champions for the campaign for access to civil marriage for same-sex couples in Ireland and indeed worldwide. For the first time ever in Ireland, here were two charming older lesbian women on television, radio and in the newspapers speaking openly about their love and their lifetime commitment to each other, simply looking for their Canadian marriage to be recognised and protected here like any other Irish couple who gets married abroad. Their message of love and commitment, deeply rooted in human rights and equality, was heard for the first time in Ireland by the media and in legal and political spheres. They had changed Ireland forever and started a new civil rights movement for our generation, one which recognises marriage as an important portal for economic and social and cultural rights, in particular relationship and family rights. In November in 2007, after a brainstorming weekend with Mark Solomon, who's one of the leaders in the recent US marriage equality winning campaigns this month, marriage equality was born. We developed a multi-strategy approach to build on Catherine and Anne-Louise's success and launched as a new campaign in February 2008 with our Case for Marriage Equality policy document, setting out why marriage equality matters for LGBT people and for Irish society. Our goal has always been about equality, ending the marriage ban for same-sex couples. It's about the right to choose to marry the person you love or not. Our vision is of an Ireland where being LGBT or T is unremarkable. Gaining access to marriage, having our relationships and family recognised and protected in the same way as heterosexual couples, is at heart about stripping away at anti-gay stigma and homophobia, and not about forcing people to get married. Our strategy was and remains fivefold, all interdependent. Firstly, our legal strategy to support the Zappone and Gilligan case for recognition of their Canadian marriage. Secondly, our communications strategy to humanise the debate by increased visibility of the LGBT community and making the case for marriage equality, sharing our stories, and some of the images behind me there are part of that campaign. Thirdly, a mobilisation strategy to ensure that there is demonstrated support for change from the public, LGBT and non-LGBT, including a broad base of allies, and ensuring that public representatives are made aware of this via our engagement with our lawmakers on a grassroots level. This turned into our Out to Your TD campaign. Fourthly, our political strategy was to work with public representatives to ensure that marriage equality becomes a reality. And fifthly, our fundraising strategy to develop the organisation into a fundraising organisation to sustain activities until the goal of marriage equality is reached. And I was struck when Mary was speaking there about the challenges that advocacy groups face here in Ireland, particularly with the new legislation, which means that you're unable to get charitable status if one of your aims, as ours is to actually lobby TDs and seek for legislative change. So as an organisation, this obviously is a huge funding problem for us. The Marriage Equality campaign has had immense success over the last 5 years, with numerous positive outcomes or incremental wins towards our ultimate aim. Some key examples are that marriage equality has shifted the debate in the public and political realms away from whether civil partnership should be introduced or not, and reframed access to civil marriage as the only means of true relational equality for Irish lesbian and gay citizens. Marriage equality has demonstrated evidence of positive support amongst the Irish general public for marriage equality, by commissioning independently conducted attitudinal polls and mobilising allies to participate in public marches of support, for example, the LGBT Noises March for Marriage, and indeed marriage equality themed pride marches around the country. Marriage equality has also increased the visibility of lesbian and gay people and our families to historic levels via our We Are Family postcard campaign, and also the Voices of Children project, and our Just Love billboards, and indeed the short films, one of which I've shown you and the second one I'll show you at the end, and via the positive media profiling of real-life stories. Marriage equality has also brought the collective political capital of its constituency and our allies to the offices of public representatives through the Out to Your TD project. And originally we came up with that project because some of you may remember Martin Mansell standing in the Dáil and saying in all his years in politics he'd never had a gay person come into his office looking for these rights. He can't say that now, I can tell you. Marriage equality has also highlighted the differences between civil partnership and civil marriage in the media and legal fora, offering examples of legal solutions and case law in other countries which deliver equality. The cumulative effect has been to advance the issue of marriage equality to an extent that we believe would have been unimaginable even 10 years ago. In addition, the Marriage Equality campaign is a catalyst for the unprecedented mobilisation and politicisation of Ireland's LGBT communities and allies. If you'd like to read more detail of how this change was achieved, we have a case study on the initiative on our website, written up by external evaluators. Public support then for marriage equality has grown from 56% in 2008 to 73% in 2011. And as you're all aware, the Constitutional Convention is to look at the provision of same-sex marriage early next year. For all these reasons, we believe that now is the time for marriage equality in Ireland and that we are almost there. If I can take you back a bit in the timeline of the campaign to look at some of the strategic decisions we've made and some of the lessons we've learned along the way, I could sum up some of the lessons from the field as, firstly, humanising the debate, secondly, using our language wisely, and thirdly, being able to react quickly to changing environments, building a broad base of support amongst allies and grassroots, and securing funding to employ a core staff to work with a strong board. And it's to these issues that I'm going to address the rest of my comments. Even before it was enacted, we knew that civil partnership would be a challenge for us. We knew that although it was a step in the right direction, in that it provided some legal recognition for same-sex relationships, it also had the potential to become a cul-de-sac for marriage equality. Civil partnership reinforces the idea in people's minds that same-sex relationships are intrinsically different and unequal to heterosexual relationships, and therefore may be only deserving of some of the protections, recognition and obligations available to married heterosexual couples. It also confuses people. We all know what it means to be married, but to be civil partnered or civilly partnered, or how do you say it? It is something new and, of course, only available to same-sex couples. We see this today even in the way people describe what they have or have had or are in. They don't like saying civil partnership, and instead they say gay marriage or same-sex marriage, shorthand for gay people's marriage. This means we have to keep reminding people, firstly, that same-sex couples cannot yet get married in Ireland. Secondly, that civil partnership is a step. And thirdly, we don't want gay marriage. And members of the media might really take this on board. We want access to marriage. We also worry that the introduction of civil partnership could dampen people's motivation to push for marriage equality. So the challenge for us was really to keep the momentum for the marriage equality campaign growing. Keep the target of equality of rights up front and out there for all our publics. We believe our holding the goal of equality hardened up and improved what finally came through in 2010 as the Civil Partnership Act. The swell in support, both politically and globally, following civil partnership here has not dampened the momentum. We've managed to keep it going, and we're pushing for the final lap, the introduction of civil marriage rights for same-sex couples. Language and messaging is so important for the campaign. We've worked with colleagues in other countries and media consultants here in Ireland to craft our messaging, arguments and rebuttals. For example, most of the far-right arguments in Ireland have already been used in the States, so liaising with colleagues there has helped us develop tried and tested rebuttals. We've also taken on board research from our friends in the Freedom to Marry campaign called Why Marriage Matters, which recommends talking about love, commitment and family. After all, when you ask anyone why they want to get married, most say they do it because they love their partner, they want to make a public commitment to them, and they want to ensure support to enable them to protect their loved ones. It's no different for LGBT people. So we've developed our messaging to reflect this. Again, this reinforces that what same-sex couples want is often similar to what heterosexual couples want: love, commitment and family security. We know this works from our communications and can even measure it in terms of, for example, the amount of engagement we generate through Facebook posts when we use this kind of language. Of course, not all of it translates. Irish audience tend to be a little bit more cynical of the L word, love, than our American counterparts are, but sometimes romance works. That's not to say that we're unaware of some of the pitfalls and power inequities that marriage represents and supports. However, we see that as part of the longer social revolution in which many of us as feminists have been engaged and will continue to be engaged when this civil inequity, which discriminates against LGBT people and our families, has been resolved. Of course, once we explain that civil partnership is not the same as marriage and only access to civil marriage will provide equality for same-sex relationships, people immediately want to know what the difference is. We needed to be able to list these differences and show that these gaps in economic and social rights have negative impacts on the everyday lives of ordinary lesbian and gay women and men, our families and our kids. Otherwise, why would people care about the campaign? Wasn't civil partnership enough? With the help of a team of expert lawyers, we set out to list the statutory differences under Irish law for spouses versus civil partners. After months of trawling through legislation and comparing and contrasting and working out the practical effects of the differences, we published Missing Pieces, our marriage audit report, which details over 160 statutory differences. The research formed the basis for our Just Love campaign. We used the research as an advocacy tool to brief politicians, the media, our allies and supporters about the continued need for marriage equality. We used outdoor posters of real couples and families on billboards, YouTube short films about the consequences of some of these differences. And we used social media to let people know that civil partnership was only a step towards marriage equality, a step that is not inevitable and requires pursuance. To prove the continued demand for marriage equality, we used a report published by the NLGF in 2009 called Burning Issues. This empirical evidence that marriage equality is a priority issue for LGBT people in Ireland was powerful. Marriage equality was in the top 3 burning issues amongst LGBT people surveyed in Ireland and was the priority issue regarding relationship recognition demands. We also had the benefit of market research and polling, some commissioned by us and some by others, including the government indeed after the judges' pay referendum failure. They asked this question about same-sex marriage. to show that Ireland is ready for and wants marriage equality. Almost 3/4 of the Irish population, 73%, are saying that they support access to civil marriage for same-sex couples. And we, in Marriage Equality, will shortly be publish a survey which we had carried out independently in August, and without letting the cat out of the bag, we are very happy with the results. One of the biggest lessons we learned was that time and time again in all our activities, whether lobbying or media work, it's the human stories that have the biggest impact. So we've undertaken projects like Voices of Children, where we invited young adult children with lesbian and gay parents to tell us what it's like growing up in Ireland, where their families are not recognised or protected. This workshop was then written up in a report, and we held a conference of the same name, which was attended by children, parents, child law experts, child psychologists, children's NGOs and people working with children, a first of its kind in Ireland, to talk about the issues that these children face. A new group for children with LGBT parents believe in equality emerged from this project, and we now have a wealth of people and stories, as well as expert allies from that field, to counteract the arguments that gay and lesbian people shouldn't be able to get married because they can't or shouldn't have children. This new advocacy group joins the growing team of marriage equality allies amongst civil society, LGBT and non-LGBT organisations. We were pleased to participate in and support the yes vote in the recent children's referendum. We know that when the children of LGBT parents' voices are heard, they want recognition for their families too. Working with our allied organisations, including political parties, youth groups, women's groups, trade unions and human rights and equality groups at a local, regional, national and international level, has really allowed us to box above our weight, to use a Katie Taylor-inspired image. Last year we invited more couples and their families to join us for a day to take photographs so we could use their images in our materials, so that people reading them would make the connection with faces of real people living here in Ireland facing exclusion and discrimination because of their sexual orientation and identity. We've held media training days for couples willing to share their stories, to give them confidence to share as much as was helpful and appropriate for them. And this means we can follow up press releases with offers to local media of local couples and can proactively approach journalists to write human interest stories. What's more persuasive than a local person that you can relate to, telling you their story, evoking empathy about their struggle to marry the person they love and protect their family? Finding a diversity of couples and families has been very helpful. This simple strategy works in our lobbying area. We bring real couples or adult children with lesbian and gay parents with us to share their stories with politicians before we offer our solutions to them. It makes our job somewhat easier. This human story approach is also the reason that our Out to Your TD grassroots project has been so successful. It's about sharing personal stories with politicians in their constituency offices and making the issue real to them. Those who are supportive get the added comfort that there are people, potential voters in their constituency, who want marriage equality. The TDs who don't know anything about the issue are brought up to speed by one of their own constituents and not some activist from Dublin, gently persuaded to, at best, become a champion for marriage equality and at worst not to stand in the way. Those who are against it are often ill-informed on the issue and can have their minds changed, sometimes after just one meeting. The issue stops being just an albeit worthy human rights and equality matter. The penny drops that this is about ordinary people and their families. This kind of engagement has also led to motions of support being passed at the various political parties' annual conferences. And while only 2% of the population may be involved in political parties, they're hugely powerful when you can get that apparatus with their motions behind you. Local visibility in the media, in the constituency clinics and at meetings in Leinster House have also been key to our success to date. Likewise, international solidarity on marriage equality has given us boosts, whether it's President Obama's support for marriage equality earlier this year, or moves in France and the UK to introduce marriage equality, and of course, public support from our own political leaders, like the Taoiseach Emil Gilmore, speaking overtly so clearly in June of this year about his views, and again recently calling for an end to the delay in introducing legislation for what he called one of the civil rights issues of this generation. These all help to make more people want to be on the right side of history as this issue moves towards its denouement. Informed and engaged grassroots activists and supporters across Ireland have also made it easy for us to react quickly on the ground when we need to mobilise support. For example, earlier this year, a councillor in Belfast proposed a motion to her city council, and that has really started the ball rolling. for many of the other city councils, 10 so far, who have passed marriage equality motions. Although the councils have no legislative power, motions like this raise awareness and make it local, even generating local and national media coverage, and feed the groundswell of support. And it sends a strong message to the legislators from their constituencies that this is not just a Dublin 4 thing. Lastly then, we've learned that progress is much faster when you have resources. And we have been lucky with a committed, experienced board. Many of us working on the campaign have a long track record of working on other social justice issues. On top of that, we've a paid, committed staff that are constantly keeping track of developments. They lead and develop projects to raise awareness. And to date, we have been able to do a lot of our work because of the funding given to us by Atlantic Philanthropies. However, as those of you who are Atlantic grantees know, they're winding up and their funding for us ends this year. So we've learnt lessons on how to fundraise, and one of them is asking for support whenever we get an audience. So I'm asking you to support marriage equality. Go on the website and see how you can support us. In January, the Constitution Convention begins working on the 8 issues set out for it, including the provision of marriage equality. We will continue our work to ensure a positive recommendation, and after that to ensure the government implements it, so that within the lifetime of this government, marriage equality will become a reality in Ireland, and our laws will reflect the kind of country that we want. A modern, progressive country that recognises and protects same-sex families. Ireland is ready, and now is the time. And I just have one very short second film to show you.
We might just show it before the coffee break, if that's all right.
Okay. It's really like 18, 20 seconds, it's a really short one.
When I was little, I was asked a lot of questions about my family.
How come you have 2 moms? I don't know. I just do.
They're both my mums. It's just the way it is. Everyone knew that. And so the questions stopped. Until the day came when my answer wasn't good enough to the most important question of all.
If she's not your biological mother, then legally you're not next of kin. I'm sorry, but I can only discuss this with immediate family.
Civil partnership neglects the rights between a child and his or her non-biological parent, and the consequences are real. To find out more, visit marriageequality.ie.